Good evening and welcome back to Woke Nation. This is the Quick Thoughts episode number 3. That would be 3. So this will be a short episode. I swore a little while ago that I would never talk about the Mueller Probe ever again. I'm sure you can understand my frustration after 2.5 years of sheer nonsense, conspiracy theories, facts not adding up, just pure madness and insanity, being buried under an avalanche of just of ravenous hatred from the Democrats and the progressive left. You couldn't turn on the news, the New York Times, CNN, Rachel Maddow, Brian Stelter, Anderson Cooper, all these people. I mean, it would take a show 3 hours long, probably much longer than that, to actually highlight all of the insane lies and deceit and just blind hatred that was displayed before America by the progressive left and the Democrats throughout the entire Mueller probe. A probe, by the way, which turned up absolutely no evidence of President Trump's colluding with Russia, turned up no evidence of wrongdoing or criminal intent. If anything, it's boomeranged back on the Democrats now. We have Bill Barr and Durham both investigating the origination of the Mueller probe, of this Russian hoax. They're trying to get to the very bottom of how this all began. Fusion GPS, the despicable lie that was the Christopher Steele dossier, which was never verified and which corrupt FBI leaders like James Comey signed off on, knowing in order to get a FISA warrant so that they could spy on the Trump campaign, knowing that the Steele dossier was unverified and believed to be fraudulent by most of the members of the FBI. The FBI clearly said that we cannot verify this dossier, and it's suspect to say the least, and yet Comey signed off on it, giving the FBI and the intelligence agencies their FISA warrant to then spy on the Trump campaign. This was an egregious overhaul of power and just a stifling of our basically a removal of freedom and a truly frightening display of what it looks like when the intelligence agencies that are supposed to protect America are instead turned on American citizens as a weapon. So I eventually got so sick of the whole thing, as everybody else did, and swore that I would never talk about it again as long as I was doing this podcast. I would never mention Mueller again. And I held good to my word, despite the fact that everybody was talking about it on their podcast as Mueller was subpoenaed to testify, and that whole charade just imploded on the Democrats. I could have talked about that, but there was no need to. Everybody else was talking about it, and it was just obvious. I mean, it would have been gratuitous, to say the least, for me to talk about it. That's how I felt anyway. But now, with Mueller in the past, this guy just imploded on the Democrats, made a fool of himself in front of Congress when they subpoenaed him. The guy, it looked like he had taken a handful of Ambien before he went into the courtroom. He could barely remember his own name. There was just a line of drool hanging off of his chin the entire time. He was slumped forward as if somebody had just shot an elephant tranquilizer into his rear end right before he sat down, probably Bill Barr. How those two are friends is beyond me. But anyway, this whole thing imploded. But the Democrats, here's the really funny thing is, after this whole thing imploded, you still have these maniacs like Eric Swalwell, who in front of Congress not too long ago during a hearing, when they brought up the Russian hoax, something that has been proven false by the Mueller report, Eric Swalwell said, I still believe he's a Russian agent. I mean, translation, I'm an idiot. I live in a fairy tale existence, is basically what he just said to America. That these people are maniacs. And now you could just tell that they were biding their time. What I think is going on, and this is going to sound like a conspiracy theory, but by this point, what isn't a conspiracy theory? It's all a conspiracy theory. Half the country believes that Trump is a Russian agent. That's a conspiracy theory that flies clear in the face of all the facts. Or you believe the conspiracy theory that there is a deep state circle of people within our government that have hijacked the rule of law, that are engaged in undermining the rule of law, and are using our intelligence agencies as a weapon to silence their political opponents. So you either believe one of those two conspiracy theories. As far as this whole Ukraine thing, Trump basically just called their bluff and released the transcript of this phone call. A phone call, by the way, that the supposed whistleblower was not listening to during the initial call, has not read the transcript himself, has no immediate access to it, no direct knowledge. This is like based off of such secondhand, third-hand, fourth-hand hearsay that only a moron would actually listen to it. Only somebody who is just willing to grasp at any straw necessary, at any straw available that might pull Trump down would listen to this kind of nonsense. But look at the people that are actually driving the Democrat Party. Look at the people that are actually the ones that are ravenously pushing the party forward into this impeachment massacre or suicidal massacre. This is going to kill them in 2020. Thank heavens for that. This is going to kill them in the House. Thank heavens for that. But look at the people driving it. You have Nancy Pelosi, who's a quivering bowl of Jell-O. You need a bucket at her feet to catch all the drool when she talks. You have AOC, our country is so dumbed down at this point as far as civics and history and philosophy and religion that when AOC speaks, they think that it's like Socrates and Plato with an estrogen overload. You have Rashida Tlaib, somebody who talks about peace and love on one hand, but then on the other hand, the very first statement she made upon getting into office is, let's impeach the mother effer, talking about Trump. I don't see many fruits there, peace and love and everything. Adam Schiff, whose eyes, he looks like a cow with his big grape eyes, the whole thing is just insane. I was trying to think who else is it. There's Eric Swalwell, who the best he could accomplish during his presidential run was to say that I am you and you are me. So this guy who's having a crisis of identity is who we're going to look to for American security. Adam Schiff, the guy who, a cow, watch a cow the next time that it actually wants to put forth like a big moo. When it does, cows have these big like walnut grape eyes, and whenever they're trying to put out like a moo, like their eyes roll back and you see the giant whites of them. And also it gives you like they say eyes are like the window of the soul. You see how dumb a creature a cow is when these big white things roll back in its head, its mouth opens and is the only thing that comes out. That's Adam Schiff. Look at his eyes next time and then listen to the words that comes out of his mouth. Put a cow next to him on like a movie screen and then put Adam Schiff talking and that's Adam Schiff. Jerry Nadler, the guy who looked like the fat dude from Jurassic Park who stole the dinosaur DNA and that got eaten in the park ranger. He's also in Seinfeld. I forget the guy's name. Newman, Jerry Nadler, who looked like Newman from Seinfeld. These are the people driving this thing. You have Ilhan Omar. I mean, this is Osama bin Laden's sister. She hates America, despises it. Where do we get off thinking that these people have our best interest at heart? And all you have to do is read the transcript of the phone call, President Trump's phone call to the president of Ukraine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. All he said was that there was corruption, possible corruption during the 2016 election, I think with CrowdStrike. Will you look into it? Will you look into election interference? I thought Democrats were very eager to get to the bottom of election interference, election meddling. So wouldn't Democrats be on Trump's side on this one? They've always said that Russia meddled in our elections. Well, here's Ukraine too, and Trump's trying to get to the bottom of it. So what is wrong with that? Why are they trying to impeach the guy for doing the very thing that they've been wailing and whining about like a bunch of Israelites at the Wailing Wall for the past 3 years? I mean, come on now. They should be best friends. They should be two peas in a pod. But no, they're trying to impeach the guy, or the mother effer, as Rashida Tlaib so graciously put it. This is just sheer insanity. And then if you read the transcript, the rest of it, there is no quid pro quo or whatever you want to call it. There is no exchange going on. The guys compliment each other. You know, they're obviously giving each other like, you know, little punches in the arm. You, bro, what's up? You know, you have a good country and so do I. That's about the intellectual level of most of the conversation. You can't impeach somebody for that. And then Trump comes out and says, well, you know, I want to get to the bottom of CrowdStrike, the election meddling, and there was something about Biden's son at the end of it. What, and you're going to impeach the guy over that? I mean, the most revealing thing I think about all of this is that Nancy Pelosi quivered her way to a microphone before the transcript had even been released and said, we're going to launch an impeachment inquiry on this issue. So she hadn't even read the transcript. As the drool poured from her mouth, she gave some meaningless speech about how she was praying for the president, how this just breaks her heart. Yeah, I'm sure it breaks your heart, Nancy. Who believes that? Honestly, do you believe that? I don't believe that. I don't believe Nancy Pelosi even knows what the word pray means anymore. Put that to a side, though. But, I mean, come on. If it wasn't Russia, now it's Ukraine. And then when this Ukraine thing falls apart, which it inevitably will, you cannot impeach Trump over this issue, then what's going to be next? So when I say I'm not going to talk about Mueller and Russia, I had no idea that right around the corner was a whole nother steaming pile of rhino feces that we were all going to have our noses and our face rubbed in for the next 50,000 news cycles as the Democrats just exercise their demented hate for a guy that's done nothing except improve the economy, put job unemployment at the lowest it's been for ethnic minorities and African Americans, yet he's supposed to be a racist. He's supposed to hate Mexicans, yet he's provided a wealth of opportunities for them, for legal aliens. But, I mean, just the madness of this. So, bottom line here, while I wrap this insane rant up, I've noticed over Trump's presidency now that there's the never Trumpers, the people that hate him, forget those people. And then there's the always Trumpers, who literally Trump could go out and shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. People like Michael Knowles, who, by the way, I like Michael Knowles, but if Trump shot somebody on Fifth Avenue and spit on the guy's face as he was bleeding to death, Michael Knowles would get on his podcast and be like, what President Trump is doing here is showing us the gratuitous violence in our society, and he is trying to highlight this for our benefit so that we can learn from it. You know, it doesn't matter what Trump does. The always Trumpers like Michael Knowles will defend him. And for a long time, I really, was against being an always Trumper because, you're supposed to put something above the president. You're supposed to have an objective moral standard outside of somebody, even if you support the president, even if you believe that he's the last thing standing between us and socialism. But as time has gone on, I've realized that that these petty beefs that we get on on as conservatives need to be put by the side. One thing that characterizes the Democrat Party is its unity. They do not eat their own, generally speaking, yet conservatives continuously turn on each other and destroy each other over petty little stupid things. President Trump puts out a tweet that nobody likes, and conservatives are turning against him, and I can't support the president, not thinking of the big picture that if you don't support this guy, there won't be anything to support after he's gone. The country will go down the tubes, and then you'll be wondering what happened. You'll be standing there in City Hall with your hat in your hand and your briefcase being emptied out down the corridor. Goodbye, good luck, don't ever come back. This is our country now, and you have no part in it. That's what's going to happen if Trump is gone. So all these petty beefs that conservatives have need to be put by the side. Jonah Goldberg and people at National Review and others who continuously criticize the president need to shut up and actually get behind the one guy that's actually going to stand against the socialist wave that is basically washing over Washington right now. And if you can't get behind him, don't cry later when the country falls to crap. Other people like Matt Walsh and some of the others that want to make moral statements, or Ben Shapiro, about some of the things President Trump has said. Give me a break. There is no perfect man that has ever held the offices of the presidency, and it's not going to start now with perfect men coming after President Trump. So clutch your pearls somewhere else, or just get out of the way. Get behind this president, defend him. If he gets destroyed, there's not going to be any chance left for anyone else remotely conservative to take his place. It's just not going to happen. If he loses in 2020, we will have no one to blame but ourselves, and we will become a socialist country. That is just going to be the inevitable result of Trump losing. So the bottom line here is we have to be able to see the big picture, and the big picture is you get behind this guy and defend him for all it's worth, or don't complain when the country falls apart. All right? That's my rant and our episode for the week. I realize it's not very, it was kind of all over the place, and, I didn't really script it. Well, I never script anything, but I didn't really plan anything out. I just knew I wanted to talk about this Ukraine thing. I knew I was allowed to talk about it because it wasn't Mueller anymore. So, anyway, MAGA 2020, whatever you want to call it. The lighting's so bad in here, but you can read that. All right, good night, and God be with you.